How successful have homeless shelters in Orange County truly been in addressing the homelessness crisis that has plagued the area? This is a question we find ourselves grappling with as we consider the stark reality of the situation. Over the past 7, Orange County has spent almost $1 billion addressing the homelessness crisis. A staggering third of this amount has towards the operation of homeless shelters. Yet, the county's own reports show that the problem is far from resolved. To put this in perspective, the crisis is so severe that if you were to compare it with Los Angeles County, you'd find it as trying to differentiate between King Kong and Godzilla in terms of destructiveness. Once seen as a beacon of hope, are now under scrutiny. Activists and homeless service providers are beginning to question their efficacy. Are they truly helping people transition off the streets, or are they merely a temporary solution to a much problem? We sought data from a dozen Orange County shelters to find some answers. The results were less than encouraging. Most shelters struggled to move more than 20% of their residents into housing each year. Some of them could not even provide data on how many people they were able to help transition into housing. A former CEO of a prominent foundation, who operates shelters in Fullerton and Santa Ana, expressed his concerns. There's no evidence at all that showed we were putting a high of people into permanent housing for the cost. In his current role as CEO for National Healthcare and Housing Advisors, he warns that the abandonment of homeless shelters is a trend happening nationwide. He believes the model and system have stopped working due to of affordable housing. The question we now face is, what should the future of homeless response look like in Orange County? As we delve deeper into this crisis, we turn to the voices of those directly involved in this situation. Stay tuned as we continue to explore this pressing issue and seek solutions that are both effective and sustainable. We turn our attention to the role of private corporations in addressing homelessness and their contribution to the effectiveness of homeless shelters. These companies, on the front line of the housing crisis, offer a unique perspective on this issue. Some, like a prominent nonprofit organization that operates shelters in Fullerton and Santa Ana, have seen firsthand the challenges faced by these institutions. According to industry insiders, the shelters in Orange County, being supported by nearly a third of the county's almost $1 billion spent addressing homelessness over the past 7 years, are failing in their primary objective, to help the homeless find permanent housing. The statistics, they say, speak for themselves. Most shelters struggle to move more than 20% of their residents into housing each year, and some can't even show how many people are moving into housing at all. There's no evidence at all that showed we were putting a high enough number of people into permanent housing for the cost, say the representatives of private corporations. It's a bleak assessment, but one that is grounded in reality. Now, in the field of national healthcare and housing, their insights go beyond Orange County. They observe a worrying trend that is happening nationwide: the abandonment of homeless shelters. The model, they say, just stopped working. The reason? A lack of affordable housing. The system because there's not enough affordable housing. They explain. The implication is clear. The issue of homelessness can't be solved by shelters alone. Without affordable housing options, the homeless are left in a vicious cycle of impermanence. Looking ahead, the private sector skeptical of the future of big shelters. We don't know moving forward that anyone is building and using big shelters, they say. It's a sobering thought, one that raises questions about the future of homeless response, not just in Orange County, but across the nation. A sobering insight from the heads of private corporations, but what do other key stakeholders have to say about this? A senior policy advisor for a renowned civil rights organization shares her thoughts on the role of shelters in addressing homelessness. She presents an intriguing perspective, suggesting that shelters may not be the solution we hope them to be. The advisor postulates that shelters often serve more as warehouses for individuals experiencing homelessness rather than conduit to permanent housing solutions. She emphasizes the lack of evidence supporting the effectiveness of shelters in transitioning people into housing. Her argument hinges on the notion that there is no cost or policy argument that justifies investing more in shelters rather than in housing. This viewpoint raises important questions about the future of homelessness response strategies. Are we focusing too much on temporary fixes at the expense of long-term solutions? Argument from this advisor, but how do county supervisors respond to these critiques? The script section provided does not contain the term mercy house to replace with a local shelter. Thus, no changes are needed in the script. In light of the ongoing issues with shelter spending and performance in Orange County, it's important to consider what the future might hold. What changes could be made to improve the situation? One possible solution is to rethink the way we approach homelessness. Instead of focusing on shelters as the only solution, experts suggest exploring other alternatives. For instance, could we channel more funds into prevention and outreach programs aimed at keeping people from becoming homeless in the first place? Or perhaps we could look at investing in more affordable housing options. After all, as Supervisor Chaffee pointed out, the issue isn't that people don't want to transition out of homelessness, it's that there simply aren't enough places for them to go. Another potential solution is to hold shelters more accountable for their performance. This could involve setting more rigorous goals, conducting regular audits, or even reconsidering contracts if shelters consistently fail to meet their targets. It's clear that the status quo isn't working, but with a willingness to consider new approaches and a commitment to finding solutions, there's hope yet for tackling the homelessness crisis in Orange County. Now let's take a detour and look at our neighbors in Los Angeles County. You think we've got it tough? They've got their own set of hilarious predicaments to deal with. Picture this, a homeless man in downtown LA setting up his tent on the Walk of Fame. He's got a great view of the stars both on the ground and in the sky. Talk about a room with a view, right? And then there's the time the city tried to implement a tiny homes solution. Sounds nice, right? Well, it turns out that squirrels also thought it was a great idea. One tiny home ended up with a squirrel infestation and they weren't paying rent. And let's not forget about the time LA County tried to use an old cruise ship as a floating homeless shelter, but they didn't account for seasickness. It's not just the housing market that's rocking in LA, it's their homeless shelters too. As we can see, homelessness is a complex issue that affects many areas, not just Orange County, but hey, at least we're not alone in this struggle, right? In fact, we might even be able to learn a thing or two from our funny neighbors to the north. After all, sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected places. Let's take a moment to imagine if a non-profit corporation, one that should be leading the charge in solving our homeless crisis, turned into a business with bad management. Picture this, the CEO, a well-intentioned individual, forgets the password to the company's bank account. Now, they can't access the funds dedicated to providing essential services for the homeless. You can almost see the tumbleweeds blowing through the empty offices, right? Now, imagine the chaos as the manager, in an unfortunate oversight, accidentally schedules everyone's vacation for the same week. The office is empty, the phone lines are unmanned, and the people who rely on their services are left in the lurch. It's like a scene from a sitcom, but with real, serious consequences. And let's not forget about the company's annual report. Instead of a detailed breakdown of their finances, all you get is a hand-drawn pie chart with the label money stuff. It's funny in a tragic sort of way, isn't it? Remember folks, good management is key. These humorous scenarios highlight the importance of competent leadership and effective organization. As we work towards solutions for the homelessness crisis, let's ensure we don't fall into these pitfalls. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insights and of course, a few laughs along the way.